A lot of people inside the ag industry today don't want to talk about one of the really tough challenges that hundreds of family farm operations are literally going through every single year inside of this country. And that is what happens after you lose the family farm operation. Now, again, it's no secret that hundreds of family farms are going under every single year, and that decades, if not generations of work are literally being wiped out, right? And wiped off the face of the earth. And it's really difficult here. So inside today's video, I'm going to shed some light on some things that I witnessed our family go through. And hopefully you take some things away from this that'll help you prevent it from ever happening to your family farm operation. Now, the first thing that people obviously don't really want to talk about are just the financial challenges that come when you have a family farm operation that goes under. I remember back in 2005 when our family farm went under, and I remember my dad talking about it and just seeing the emptiness in his eyes, but also seeing this massive amount of fear because every dollar that he had in the bank was locked up, right? Accounts were frozen. He could not do anything. He couldn't move. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars in a savings account in the bank that he no longer had access to. So imagine being in that position. I can't even imagine myself being in that position to where everything that you've worked for is locked up. You literally can't do anything. And now you're a grown man who's 45 years old. You have kids at home and you can't provide for your family. Right. And I remember back in those times to where my parents would tell me where $12,000 cash was hidden inside of our house just because they needed me to know where it was at, because that was all we had. That was literally all my parents had there. And it was just a really challenging time there, not only just for my parents, but there was obviously other families involved in the operation. My grandparents also had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy, but you just see the emptiness that comes over people when, they lose everything, and it sucks and it's terrible. And it's something I hope nobody ever goes through. It's something that really made me grow up at an early age and recognize what's really at risk for these big family farm operations, especially the ones that don't know their numbers, that aren't keeping track of these things and paying attention at the level they should be. And my dad, he placed a lot of trust in my granddad and other people that we had in the family office there, when the reality was he shouldn't have just been focused on maintaining and managing the feed yard. He should have been focused more on the numbers inside the operation versus trusting other people. But ultimately, he had to pay the price for that, and that sucks, and it does happen. I'm not saying it only happens to my parents, but there's a big reason that people don't talk about the financial challenges, and that is because it sucks and it's hard and it's painful and you are exposed in that time. The next thing that came from the downfall of our family farm operation that a lot of people don't talk about are the challenges that come with maintaining relationships. And what do I mean by that? There was multiple families involved inside of my grandparents' operation. So my granddad and grandma had 5 different kids. So my dad managed the feed yard. I had 2 uncles that managed the farm ground, and then I had 2 aunts that worked in the office there as well. I didn't see some of those people for 10 years after the family farm went under. There was such a massive amount of problems that existed out there when everything went down, and there was so much resentment and anger and questions ranging across the family to where, again, I didn't see some of our family members that I grew up with literally every single day for almost a decade there, because those wounds were so bad. Right. And these things were so difficult to talk about. And again, there was so much anger and resentment there, and people questioning what the heck happened and what should we have done to ultimately prevent this. And again, that's just one of those things that people don't want to talk about because it's tough, and it's easier for people just to turn their heads and walk away versus try to really face it and look at this thing head on. But at that time, when the family farm operation goes under, what are you going to do? Right? What were my parents going to do and things like that? It's really tough when it gets to working with family and business. I mean, people want to pretend that it's awesome working with your family on the farm operation until things go bad, and then it is amplified greatly. And that's what I experienced there growing up on the farm operation. Now, the last piece here, and arguably the most painful one, is that if you grew up in ag, right, or your parents grew up in ag or anything like that, ag is your identity, right? If you're a farmer, being a farmer is your identity. If you're a rancher, being a rancher is your identity. And man, cattle, that was just my dad's identity, right? That was what he lived every day to do from basically age 5 to 45. He started sorting pins when he was 5 years old, he used to tell me. And then he basically built up the entire feed yard, literally all the bunk lines, the fences, the all of our processing barns and everything like that. He was there for all of that. That was his identity. That was who he was. And then the summer of 2005, all of it was stripped away from him in what seemed like about 3 months, right? A man's entire identity for the past 40 years gone in 3 months. The thing is I say that and it doesn't sound that bad, but the thing is when you live it and you see it like I did, it's hard, because everything about that man's soul was gone. Every ounce of his purpose, which was found in feeding cattle and contributing to the family and carrying on the family legacy, was ripped away from him. And there was such a massive level of just emptiness in his soul and in his eyes every single day. People don't want to talk about that. But when the family farm operation goes under, your identity goes under as well. And you have to go into this rediscovery phase, which is extremely dark and extremely challenging for any person in any type of industry to go through that, because when your identity is ripped away from you, it feels like you're dying. It feels like you are dead. It feels like you have no purpose. There's no reason to live this life anymore. And it gets really painful there. And this is, again, one of those things that people don't want to talk about. But that's why I'm sharing it with you today, because this is a massive consequence that comes when you lose the family farm operation. And I share all these things with you today to hopefully wake you up a little bit and make you start to look at things inside the operation, because these are the compounding consequences that come when you lose the family operation. And this consists of not only the financial challenges that you are definitely going to meet and have to own up to, like filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy and losing everything, but also the family challenges, and then you end with the identity challenges. These are the things that we are working to prevent inside a legacy farmer, because so many people today inside the ag industry are taking massive financial risk here, and they're not really giving them the amounts of attention that they need, because they assume that the bank is always going to be there to save them, or they assume that the risk isn't going to be that bad, or that they're on top of things, that they're structured and organized, when deep down they know that they're really not. And I know some of you watching this video right now, you know you have holes inside the operation, you know you have massive leaks there, but it's easier to just pretend that they're not there or avoid them altogether, rather than face up and own them. But I can tell you what could happen if you don't face up and own them. It's everything that I talked about inside today's video. That could 100% be your reality if you do not get your shit together, excuse my language, but get your shit together and start getting stuff structured and organized, so you are no longer shooting from the hip with massive financial decisions and not living on this only strategy of hoping and praying that things work out next year. Guys, that is a recipe for disaster, and eventually that'll get caught up to you. And always telling yourself that, hey, I'll just run back to the bank and they'll refinance stuff and we'll just continue on down the line. That's what my grandfather thought too. And then the bank quit on him. And then at that point, he was done. It was locked up. It was over. 50 years of hard work, gone. Completely gone. So unless you are willing and ready to make a change inside your operation, I want you to understand what's coming for you if you don't take the actions today to make sure that you are doing things differently and getting a hold of your numbers and starting to make sound financial decisions and really do what's best in the long run for your operation, which may not be easy decisions. I'm just going to tell you that. That's what our experience has been working with families and legacy farmers. None of the decisions that we're making are going to be easy decisions, because you're having to expose your weaknesses. You're having to expose your gaps. You're having to expose your holes in your knowledge and things that you just don't know. That's what the numbers are going to expose. But guess what? You get through that original pit of going through these hard things here, and then you're able to start building from there on within, and able to start building a business that's based off of sound financial decisions and making the right financial decisions long term that are going to secure the longevity of your operation, which is ultimately what we all want. So if anything I've said to you inside of today's video, I know it was a tougher one and a more emotional one for sure, and just kind of a painful one. But if anything I've said to you today has really resonated with you, and you know you have these holes and these gaps, and you know you have these problems inside your operation that you've been avoiding for a long time, and you're just scared to take the jump to figure these things out because you're scared of being exposed, I'm going to challenge you to find the courage to start doing something, my friend, because I do not want you to experience the pain and the challenges that I witnessed my parents go through. Your future doesn't have to be that, right? It just means that today you got to have a little bit of courage to start doing something about the problems that you've been avoiding inside the operation. And I promise you, once you start doing that, things will get better long-term for your operation, and things will start to improve pretty drastically. And if you want our help inside a legacy farmer to do that, that is literally what we are here to do. So click the link below, schedule a call with our team, and we're going to show you exactly how Legacy Farmer can help you change the future of your operation.